Welcome to Raw Conscious Talk Podcast. I'm your host, Tammy Cheney. Here, I dive deep into extraordinary journeys, out-of-body experiences, near-death awakenings, encounters with the paranormal, the unseen, unexplained, and deeply spiritual. You will hear from real people sharing unfiltered stories. Settle in, get ready for a conversation that might shift your consciousness. Today's guest, we have, I guess you could call it a part two. We have Andrew Bauer back again, and today we are going to cover his second near-death experience, which happened at the age of 14. And in this near-death experience, he spent 10 years. So we are going to listen to his experience, and Andrew, if you want to go ahead and start, you have the floor.
Thank you. I appreciate being back again. So yeah, after my first one, 7, my second one happened exactly the same number of years, 7 years later, and this one was because of a bully of mine who had been around quite a few years. He happened to be at the same camp that I was at, which was 2 hours away from home. And when he found out that I was there, he basically jumped over the bed that I was supposed to sleep in and slammed me fully bodily back into the wall behind me. And what I guess he didn't think about and I didn't realize was that um, the where we were staying was an old barn that had been like spruced up and converted into office and living space for this camp, and basically the farm had been donated. So this is a 3-story barn. Bottom floor was all office space. Second floor was where the staff stayed. Third floor is where all the kids stayed. And so we're on the top floor. Well, the barn had an A-frame roof and was supported by these 4 by 4 inch beams of wood that had a corner sticking out all the way along the ceiling on both sides of the A. And so when he threw me backwards into the thing, the way it happened, my head bent forward like this, and one of the corners of those beams caught me right in the brainstem. And
Wow.
the way the brainstem works, basically, that controls your heart, your lungs, your basic bodily functions. And so the minute that impact was made, I was dead before I hit the floor. I hit it like a sack of potatoes. The kid who
Wow.
hit me ran because he was afraid of being caught. Everybody was screaming trying to get the attention of the staff to get them up there. Luckily, one of them knew CPR, came up and started doing that. Within 4 minutes of me being down, the ambulance arrived from the hospital, which was, I don't know, 10 minutes down the road or 10 miles down the road. And they had to carry a stretcher up 3 flights of stairs to get to where I was. And then they had 2 of them carrying the stretcher. The third one was doing CPR along with the camp counselor all the way down 3 flights to get to the ambulance. And then on the way to the hospital, within, I want to say, maybe a minute of arriving there, is when they finally restored a heart rhythm and breathing and started to bring me back. And then once I got to the hospital, they fully brought me back. But I was down for 7.5 minutes, which, if you're not aware, 7 minutes is kind of the cutoff point where after that is when permanent brain damage can start to occur. People who have been down long periods of time, a lot of times they will come back with paralysis or severe brain damage, severe memory loss, amnesia, things like that. I was
Right.
thankfully unaffected by any of that. Um, but as soon as I flatlined, like I remember I came out of my body, I was in the back of the ambulance. Um, and now this being the second time and being 7 years older, I had a much better idea of what was going to happen. I knew I was dead right away. There was never a question. I knew what was happening to me. Um, and so it was more like, instead of the first time where I was more panicking and scared and what the hell's going on, I was more like, oh, okay, let's check this out. Let's see what's happening this time. And so I watched the paramedics working on me. They had two guys in the back and the one up front driving. And so, I got to watch them do their thing. And at that point, I heard my guide's voice again, the same way I'd heard it in the first near-death experience. And, I knew exactly what he was going to say, and I was ready to go as soon as he started talking. So he pulled me out. We went to the other side. There was like almost no transition period. There was no going up in the air like the first time. I just was like, I was pulled out of the ambulance. I remember seeing the ambulance go down the street when I was basically like stationary and the ambulance was driving
Mhm.
away from me. And the next thing I knew, I was already on the other side. And on the bed again in the energy based room that I was in, and I got acclimated really quickly. I knew I was going to have a life review next. It was like the whole process was already laid out, and I already knew what was going to happen. Um, and so, like the first time, it took me a while to get acclimated to being dead and being on the other side. This time, it was like I didn't need any time at all, and he understood that. So he immediately brought me out to have the life review, and just like the first time, there was some things that I'd done in the past 7 years that were, things that, were not exactly helpful or kind things to do, but I wasn't that person. And in fact, the one thing that really got me was I've been in severe pain and suffering. I've been bullied every single day of school for the entire time between the first and second near death experience. In fact, it carried on past that for almost another 2 years, almost till I was
Mhm.
16.
Wow.
And so, like, I've been beaten up every single day. Now, I knew this was coming from the first experience. I was told these are the things that are going to happen to you. But the question I never
Mhm.
thought to ask was why? Why
Mhm.
do I have to go through this? Why do I have to, get beaten up all the time? Why do I have to suffer like this? And so I was almost angry in a way, and I think my guide could sense that, and I was really almost I was really indignant and self-righteous, and like, why must I suffer? Why must I be in pain all the time? What did I do? Who did I piss off? Like, did I steal God's firstborn child? What did I do? And the calmness of his voice almost took me aback, where when he said, we can show you um the reason why, but he said it will not be a pleasant experience for you. And he looked right at me when he said this. And like I said, him saying it and the way he said it made me kind of stop and like, what's going on? Something, is going on, and I'm not sure what it is. But at the time,
Right.
I was so like, I've got to find out because not knowing is worse. So
Right.
I told them I wanted to find out, and so they brought me back to the same life review area where I just left and put me back
Mhm.
in the pod, and immediately it was very different. Like as soon as these pods, they read you telepathically, so they read your life energy, the energy of your being, and that attached to that is every lifetime you ever have lived, are living, or will ever live. So you can access any of them at any time. And I knew it was not going to be this life because I could tell right away I was somewhere completely different.
Right.
And yeah, like the first life, I got to see my past three lifetimes before this one, which is
Mhm.
basically my entire time on Earth because I was based elsewhere prior to that. So you get to the mid 1690s, I was in Switzerland, which I found out was the place that I found myself in after my two regular life reviews. The
Mhm.
field of flowers that I found myself in, and the cabin and all that stuff. That was recreation from my memory of this place that I had lived in in this life that I considered to be a perfect lifetime, where I did everything I wanted to do and then some, because I followed my path to the letter. And
Wow.
yeah, it's like
Mhm.
it was, I was a natural healer, and my wife, who I met and married, was a natural healer in different areas, and so we kind of combined our talents. And then we had, between us,
Mhm.
3 children. All of them went
Mhm.
into medicine of some type. They we actually got
Mhm.
together after we died and formed the first official hospital for that area of Switzerland. So it was
Wow.
like a multi
Mhm.
generational thing where we were helping people
Mhm.
heal in that whole area of Switzerland. And so after that life, I was thinking, okay, well, it's the perfect life. That obviously has nothing to do with why I'm suffering. So what is it?
What wo-
Oh, go ahead.
would you would you say that it was possibly a time when it was almost as if heaven was on earth, the
No, it was just
Switzerland experience?
no, it was just a regular lifetime, but just because I had
Mhm.
set myself to become a healer, a natural healer. I wanted to help people, and so basically it was showing me 3 completely different lifetimes. One where I followed my path to the letter, where I did everything I was meant to do, and how
Mhm.
that life, how that life manifested, how perfect it was, how wonderful it was. And
Mhm.
then the second lifetime was when the crap hit the fan. Um, Basically, I was in the banking industry. I was a financial whiz, basically. Um, my father sensed that about me. He put me in touch with several of his friends who were, because he was in that same industry. And so at that time, you're talking about, I was born in mid 1790s, in that lifetime, lived till the, I guess, mid 1840s or so. And
Okay.
at that time, banking people in banking, they didn't go to college to get a degree. What they did is they apprenticed under someone, and learned from them,
Mhm.
like a blacksmith would do. And so I apprenticed under the head of this bank that I worked at, and he discovered pretty quickly that I not only was really good with the different types of loans that they had at the bank, but also there was, the New York Stock Exchange had just been created less than 10 years before this, and so the stock market thing was a whole brand new source of revenue for every bank in New
Mhm.
York at that time. And
Wow.
I picked it up immediately. Like I knew
Mhm.
exactly how this worked. I could sense when a stock was gonna go up or down, and
Mhm.
I became like the go-to guy for a lot of people,
Mhm.
politicians, um, banking people, business people, rich people. I was like their financial guru. And what I was meant to do was not that. I was meant to help people get loans so they could get into a new home, or get loans so they could get out from under financial debt, set aside money for their kids' college
Right.
educations, whatever the case might be, just to help people live their lives financially. And instead, I let my greed, my ego, and my narcissism, which stem from those two, just my arrogance, take over. And I lived my life basically where it was all about, I'm going to make as much money as I can. I'm going to hoard it. I actually embezzled money from
Mhm.
the bank that I worked for. I set up loans that the interest rates would all of a sudden jump up like 10%. And it wasn't, it was in the small print that people never read. And so people were getting
Mhm.
screwed out of their money. They ended up with payments they couldn't afford, ended up going to debtor's prison, which was still a thing back then. They weren't outlawed till 1833, and we're still talking about more than a decade before that. Um, and other people were their home loans became unaffordable. they got evicted from their homes along with their entire family. And so, like, the husbands sometimes would go out and commit a crime trying to either get money or get stuff to feed his family, and ended up going to prison, which was a brand new prison at that time. Um, or like sometimes the family would get broken up. The wife would go back with her family or with some out of town relative. The children, if they were lucky, got to go to an out of town relative, but about half the time, these children ended up on the streets by themselves. And they, I had to watch and feel and experience what they went through, being on the streets, being baked in the summer sun, frozen in the winter, emaciated, gaunt. Their faces look like Auschwitz survivors. They were starving, begging anyone who came by for food or money or whatever they could get.
Wow.
And
Mm-hmm.
it just, like, seeing this faces over and like one after another, after another, after another. Like, I was screaming
Mm-hmm.
out by the time I got halfway through it, like to my guide or whoever was listening, just make it stop. I can't take anymore. And my guide's voice cut through the noise in my head, said, "You asked to see this. You must follow it through to the end." And by the time I
Wow.
got done, I was broken as a person
Right.
can be. Um, I mean, for someone who loves children and animals, who can't imagine harming a person deliberately, this was
Mm-hmm.
like hell for me. This was my hell.
Mm-hmm.
And so that stuck with me to this day. And I'll jump back in just a second, but to this day, every time I close my eyes, I see those faces. Every time I sleep,
Wow.
I remember what happened to them. I feel it again and again. It's my reminder, it's my penance that I have to pay. And so
Wow.
it's been haunting me for 40 years. But when I got done with that, uh, the what I did after that lifetime, when I got to the other side, is I immediately knew I've got to do something to make this right. But I didn't know what
Mm-hmm.
that thing was, and I thought, well, maybe I should just end my next life early, like, like not commit suicide necessarily, but do something where I die young. And so I set it up where I was born in 1900. At that time, of course, World War One was not far off, and towards the end of World War One, the Spanish flu epidemic swept the world, killed millions of people. I had myself catch Spanish flu and die from that when I was still 17, and that was early 1918. And so I thought,
Okay.
okay, genius. Oh, there's I've done it. I fixed it. Get to the other side. Nothing's changed. And in fact, if anything, it's worse. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
what? I, I just I just did that whole thing for what? For nothing? Like, how do I fix this? And the next thing I latched onto, there's this area on the other side that a lot of people see briefly and mistake it for hell. It's not. What it is an area that, people or beings who either think they don't deserve the light and unconditional love on the other side for whatever reason, or think that they deserve to be punished for eternity or whatever, will segregate
Mm-hmm.
themselves in this area by their own choice. It's not somewhere you're
Wow.
thrown, or, there's no devil with a pitchfork, there's no demons, none of that stuff. It's just an area
Mm-hmm.
where they surround themselves with darkness and misery, and it's like a
Mm-hmm.
misery echo chamber where all they have is the same misery they're feeling repeated back to them over and over and over.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay.
what happened? Sorry, go ahead.
So let me ask you a question. Would you say that those are possibly like disembodied spirits, the ones that will show up in, say, like old houses or haunted houses, haunted hospitals. Do you think that that would be who they are,
Possibly
in your
some of
opinion?
them. Yeah, I mean, not while they're in that area, but there are disembodied spirits who have the same
Hmm.
mindset. Either they don't realize they're dead, or they die with a lot of anger and misery and,
Hmm.
whatever, really a lot of negative emotions and no resolution. They don't know they're dead, so they don't move
Hmm.
on to the other side. So these beings that I saw had already moved to the other side. So it wasn't. It might have been them before they got there, but not after. But there
Okay.
are beings just like them who are disembodied spirits who don't know they're dead, are will died angry, whatever the case might be, and so they just like these other beings, they're living in an echo chamber where all their same misery and anger repeated back to them over and over. And so they tend to repeat the same things over. That's why you see them, they'll do the exact same motions over and over again. They come out of the same room, go down
Right.
the same hallway. It's like they're in a loop that constantly repeats. Now eventually
Right.
there are higher beings in both cases that are reaching out to them, that are trying to get the truth through to them, and eventually they do. That's why they don't stay forever, but eventually they will move on. They will move on by their own choice once they learn the truth. So just like the beings chose to put in the area or chose to stay behind for whatever reason, choose to change that. So it's all about choice. Nobody's forced to do anything. Nobody's punished. Nobody is, judged by any being. There's nobody who's qualified. I mean, we're all the same as far as that's concerned. And the
Hmm.
being who created all of us
Hmm.
doesn't do that either. So, but anyway, I thought once I saw this area, I thought, well, maybe that's where I need to be because what I just tried didn't work. But luckily, I
Hmm.
decided, you know what, maybe I should ask my guide first. And so boy, I'm so thankful that I did. Um, because I would have made another huge mistake and gotten nothing out of it. And he immediately told me the truth about this area. And he said the reason why your previous life didn't fix anything, he said, that life was a wasteful life. You might as well never existed. You didn't
Hmm.
impact anyone's life. You didn't have any growth in your own life. It might as well never have happened at all. And he said the reason why that didn't work, the reason why this other idea you're having won't work either, is because you're thinking of yourself. You're thinking, how can I make myself feel better? How can I get
Hmm.
out of this rut that I'm in? You're not thinking about other people. And that's when you're thinking of the wrong thing. That's when you have bad ideas and make bad choices. He said you need to do something different. I said I will do anything. Just please tell me, how do I fix this? And he said there's only one way, and that's to live what's called the life of atonement, where you choose to return in another life, but
Hmm.
instead of just following a path, the path that you end up leading is one where you experience the same level of pain and suffering that you once inflicted on other beings. And not
Hmm.
only that, you have to endure that, but also you have to convert it into sympathy, empathy, and compassion for other beings, because a lot of people, when they're hurting or in pain or suffering, they want to inflict that on other people. It's like misery loves company, the same
Right.
expression. So it's not just to experience the pain and suffering, it's to not repeat the cycle that you started in a previous life.
Hmm.
And like I can't just keep you know turning that pain into pain into pain I inflict on other beings again. I have to I have to keep it with me. I have to do this for them.
And
And
work
like
through.
the whole path is
Right.
not about me at all. It's about
Right.
fixing what I did to them.
Hmm.
So that's what this whole lifetime is about. That's why I came back. That's why I'm experiencing all the stuff that I'm experiencing and continue
Hmm.
to even to this day. All of it is
Right.
part of that plan. So
Right. And
Uh,
you
oh,
are you through all that you went through, you had become disabled at some point, correct?
yeah, actually, like I've had, I mean, just from the bullying alone, I had a major low spine injury. I had 15 brain injuries, uh, three of them
Hmm.
skull fractures, the rest concussions. I had probably 16 different broken bones, arms, fingers, toes, you name it. Eye socket twice. Um, I even had a stab wound. I mean, I went through the whole range of stuff, and some of that still affects me to this day.
Hmm.
But then towards uh, the more like towards now, my last job that I worked, which started in 2013, lasted until 2019 or early 2019, was a job that deliberately harmed not just me but also other people that I knew. They put people in areas they should never have been in, and doing things that were guaranteed to make injuries they already had worse or create them if they
Hmm.
didn't already have them. And within
Hmm.
6 years, they destroyed both of my knees, my low back, my left shoulder and arm, and my cervical spine. And I had two major surgeries in 4 years, the last of which was a 5 level cervical laminectomy infusion. And unfortunately, um, there's a with spinal and brain surgeries, there's a 15 to 20% risk factor for developing moderate or severe post-surgical complications, and I fell into that. But of course, that is also part of the plan. So it wasn't accidental;
Right.
it was planned, and those complications are what made me permanently disabled. So I've been out of work since February of 2019. So 6.5 years been disabled, and I will be for the rest of whatever time I'm on this earth. And the pain is, I'm in pain every single moment of every day, but it's not like I don't wallow in it anymore. Now that I know it has a purpose,
Hmm.
and that purpose is a good one, um,
Hmm.
you know, I try to use it every single day to help people and make the world a little bit better place by bringing sympathy, empathy, and compassion to people rather than the pain.
So can you go a little bit more into detail about how that affected you, knowing what you're coming to the realization of why you're here and that and those things in which you endured while being here?
Yeah. So first of all, when I came back from my near-death experience that second time, like you said at the beginning, like the first time I had a near-death experience, I experienced about a year's worth of time on the other side. It was
Hmm.
basically a get acclimated to the other side. Oh, cool, new experience. This one was like a decade on the other side, even though it was only a minute longer than the first time. And there was a lot more involved with it, a lot of stuff that I learned and brought back. And so, but when I came back, I had spent what in my experience was 10 years telepathically communicating, instantly teleporting one place to another, instantly creating things just by thinking about it. I didn't know how to be human anymore. And I literally
Hmm.
had to relearn for 4.5 months all of that stuff. I had to relearn how to talk, relearn how to walk, relearn how to do things where, yeah, I had to, make stuff happen instead of just thinking about it and boom, it's there. I had to relearn
Right.
all that. So that once I got past that part, um, I immediately set about doing the path that I come back for, and beyond the the pain and the suffering, they affect me greatly every single day, some more than others. I've been through severe depression. I had two suicide attempts when I was 17 and 22. Thankfully, I was not successful because I was
Yes.
doing it for the wrong reason. Um, so because a lot of times people think of suicide. There's two reasons. There's one reason that's legitimate, and that's if you're experiencing like a severe terminal illness and terminal condition, I can understand that. But when you're doing it, when you're trying to find a permanent solution to a temporary problem, you're doing it wrong. There's not the right reason.
Right.
And that's what I was doing. And
Mhm.
so I had that, and then I've been plagued by pain in multiple different areas most of my life. But
Mhm.
what it did is now that it's like when I went into this near death experience, I'd spent 7 years being angry and depressed and like, why is this happening to me, and me. And all of a sudden, my
Mhm.
grandmother noticed it first, but my parents and people around me noticed it almost immediately after that, is that my entire focus changed. I didn't care about what was happening to me anymore. I wanted to get out there and help people and make people's lives better, use my pain and suffering to understand what they were going through. I became an advocate for people who had chronic pain. I was an activist against bullying um, and abuse. I was an activist against racism. So it led me into a very active lifestyle
Mhm.
where I was standing up against or for, depending on what the thing was, those things that like against the things that harm people and for the things that help them. And
Right.
so like that became my entire focus of my life. And then when I couldn't do that actively, like out in person anymore, I started doing it online. I started doing it
Mhm.
through the phone, whatever I could do. And like now I'm doing things differently, but I'm still doing things. I'm still helping people. It's just in a different
Mhm.
way. But it has changed my
Right.
entire life from when I
Mhm.
came back from that experience till now and continuing past this. Is completely changed the focus of my life, what I'm doing with the pain. It's given me a purpose and
Mhm.
a reason to get up in the morning and go do things, because that's what I was missing. I felt lost. I felt like I was alone in this. I was just suffering for no reason. And now I know that was never true. It was all for a purpose.
Right.
I just needed to know what that purpose was. And now that I do, like my life has become so fulfilling. Like I cannot even
Mhm.
describe to you how fulfilling it is now. Helping people,
So,
seeing the impact it has on them.
right. So now what impacted you the most, I've heard you say this in the past, is that you seeing what you did to the children and the family, that's what gave you your strength to get through what you're going through now and have been going through your whole entire life. Because you had said that you would just have to see a flash of that time frame and the emotions that would hit you of,
Yes,
if you want to go into a little more detail about that.
sure. Yeah, so yeah, that's actually, thank you. That's a good reminder because
Mhm.
what ends up happening is, like, like I said, whenever I get depressed or I get, angry about my situation. Look, I'm still human. I still I still feel depression. I still feel, disappointment. I hate missing out on things that I wish I could do, or things that I've always wanted to do that I can never do the rest of my life because of my disabilities. But when I start to lose focus on where it's supposed to be, that's when I start getting flashbacks to that to that life review, and I see these kids' faces,
Mhm.
especially like the parents don't affect me as much. I mean, they're adults, and yes, I hurt them too. But the kids, for me,
Mhm.
is my weak point. Like I said, I love children and animals, so seeing children in pain, it hurts me. It hurts me right to my core. And so
Mhm.
every time I see, one of these kids and I experience that again and it brings it back up, it reminds me, this is why you're going through this. Um, Stop wallowing, stop focusing on
Mhm.
yourself. It's not about you, it never was about you. It's about them.
Mhm.
And so I use those flashbacks. Yeah, it's hard to go through, and it keeps me up a lot. But it
Mhm.
motivates me too. It motivates me to change, to be
Mhm.
a better being, to help people, to make the world a better place because I've got a lot to make up for. I mean, people say, one thing that bugs me is when people say, "Well, I feel sorry for you," or it sucks that you have to go through this. I chose to go through this. If
Mhm.
people could see what I did in my previous life to those kids, especially, they would want to lock me up and throw away the key. Hell, I wanted to throw myself into hell, even if it didn't exist. So,
Mhm.
to I don't want people's sympathy. I don't want their empathy. Or, oh, you poor thing. I don't want that from anyone because I don't deserve it. I don't. This is my penance for what I did, and I chose this penance. It's not something, no one forced it on me. No one said, put a gun to my head and said, you got to suffer for the rest of your life because of what you did. This was all my choice, every bit of it. So, I don't want anyone feeling sorry for that.
Right. So now you have 10 years of downloaded information that you received when you had that second near-death experience,
Hmm.
correct?
Yep, that's correct.
So I think that we should do a part 3 with you to go through that 10 years of downloaded very important information because I've heard many of the things that you've spoken about.
Yeah, like
And
whet your appetite for your audience. Um, I spent
right.
5 years learning about the future of humanity and how the universe works, and
Yeah.
they are like what I saw and what I still remember all the details of is huge.
Yes.
It's
And
huge.
what's some other titles of other things that have been downloaded just to give the audience a little idea of what the next video will be about?
Well, basically,
Just
this is a
titles. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's been a mix of different stuff, everything from black holes, like how they actually work, to um why people suffer, how life reviews work, why NDEs are all different from each other. There's a lot of different things that I've run
Wow.
into the last few months. Just stuff that's been pouring out of me like never before.
Oh yeah, we're definitely going to have to do a round 3 because this is very, very important information. And I I imagine that there's going to be multiple videos. 10 years worth of information is quite a bit. And
Yeah.
so why don't we go ahead and wrap this one up, and
All right.
we'll go ahead and get it scheduled in to bring you back on for round 3 for sure.
I'm already ready. I'm ready for it whenever you are.
Perfect. Perfect. So thank you so much for watching. If you've made it to the end, I would love to hear from you in the comments. Your words of encouragement mean a lot, not just to me, but especially to the guests who come on and share their deeply personal experiences. These are real people and they do read your comments. The best way to support the podcast, like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, stay curious and stay conscious.